It's 10 o'clock in Los Angeles.
Good morning. If we could have everyone's attention, let's call the council to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Cardenas, Garcetti, Gruhl, Han, Labange, Ludlow, Miskowski, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Smith, Villaraigosa, Weisstein, Padilla, 10 members present and a quorum, Madam President.
All right, the council is in session today on March 24th, Wednesday, and we're going to begin our council session today with a special presentation. Let me recognize Council President Alex Padilla.
Bring your family with you. Thank you, Madam Chair, colleagues and members of the public. Timing is everything. Timing is everything. And today it's my pleasure and my honor to introduce to you the recipient of the 2004 Cesar Chavez Award, which is presented by the Cesar Chavez Commemorative Committee of the San Fernando Valley. This year's award recipient is the Honorable, the Mayor of the City of San Fernando, Dr. Jose Hernandez. And I say timing is everything because of the conversation that we just had yesterday. I say timing is everything because of the conversation that we're going to continue today about the recognition of the Cesar Chavez holiday in the state of California and here in the city of Los Angeles. But let me talk about Dr. Hernandez for a second. He's the 6th recipient of this award, and it will coincide with an annual march. We're celebrating this Sunday the 11th annual March for Justice in the San Fernando Valley. The award has been presented 6 times. Dr. Hernandez is the 6th award recipient, and he's been chosen to receive it for his years of dedication to the community. He's a decorated Korean War veteran. He is an elected official, as I mentioned, having served many terms as both a council member as well as being the mayor of the city of San Fernando. He's a professor in the Chicano Studies Department at California State University, Northridge. He's a father, he's a husband, and he's a founding member and or active board member of many institutions in the Northeast San Fernando Valley, including Voice, El Proyecto del Barrio, in many other organizations throughout the San Fernando Valley. So colleagues, as has become a tradition here in our own council chambers, I wanted to bring in this year's award recipient, Dr. Jose Hernandez, and he'll introduce his family, and we'll ask him to say a few words. By the way, the city of San Fernando was the first city in the state of California to recognize the Cesar Chavez birthday as an official holiday. So with that, Dr. Hernandez, congratulations, and would you please share a few words?
Mr. Padilla, before we hear from Dr. Hernandez, let me recognize Councilmember Wendy Gruhl.
Thank you. I just wanted to add my congratulations, and Dr. Hernandez, you have been quite a success and accomplishment in not only the city of San Fernando, but in your professional career as well. And we're so pleased that Councilmember Padilla brought you in today to acknowledge your commitment and I think history of the ideals that Cesar Chavez really made for all of us, the importance. And so I just wanted to stand up and say congratulations. We're proud you're part of our San Fernando Valley family, and look forward to other ways in which we can work with you, Dr. Hernandez, in your efforts in the city and the valley as a whole. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Cardenas.
Good to see you, Dr. Hernandez. We've worked together for many years. I had the pleasure and honor of serving as the state representative in the State Assembly for the city of San Fernando. You've done a lot of wonderful things there. As a matter of fact, building a school there very soon. Many good things are happening in the city of San Fernando because of your leadership. And also your leadership goes back decades as you've been in the forefront of issues not only for Chicanos and Latinos, but for all of the people of the Northeast San Fernando Valley. So I want to thank Mr. Padilla for honoring you today and bringing you forward, and it's good to see you again.
Thank you.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to rise and salute the mayor of San Fernando and the great city.
Yeah.
That's right. I like that. And also I want to let you know that great city, that great name has provided 2 great leaders in our own city council. I know you speak of the honor to Cesar Chavez, but also our very own Tony Cardenas and Alex Padilla both went to the namesake of San Fernando High School, which is a great credit. No high school in the city could credit that. Even good old John Marshall could credit that. But San Fernando has contributed a lot to so much of the culture of Southern California and the Valley. And I think it's only fitting that you be honored here today as you prepare for, as we all prepare for the Cesar Chavez holiday. But it's quite an interesting city, and I love when I had time when I was younger to drive out San Fernando Road here from the heart of the city, starting in Lincoln Heights, and go through all the different neighborhoods. Little Chief's Cafe was right near Buena Vista, I think just before you came back into the city of Los Angeles. But then you came to the city of San Fernando. And what I liked, Alex, is the gateways that they have around there, and the welcoming and the spirit. And we need to rub all that spirit around. So I just want to congratulate you, Dr. Hernandez, for this and being a great mayor of a great city of San Fernando.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Hernandez.
I'd like to introduce my wife of 38 years, Carol O'Brien Hernandez. She want to make sure that I mention O'Brien. I also like to introduce my brother and sister-in-law, Dan and Laura O'Brien. And our son-in-law, David Casillas. Our two daughters could not be here because they are doctors, and they couldn't be here because of short notice. They had to attend to their patients. I would like to thank Honorable President and honorable members of the Council for this tremendous honor, and to be recognized on this occasion of Cesar Chavez. One of the greatest things that I believe that we can give to our country is to provide service to others, including service to those who have been left out of the political and economic system. One of the good things as we celebrate Cesar Chavez, I'd like to mention that I was very much admire this American hero for his positive attitudes in American life. He tried to tell the farm workers, despite of being aware of the human suffering and the hard life of the farm workers, he preached to those workers, and never, in other words, he never was in doubt about the American sense of fairness. This is one of the reasons why I admire this man, And he told those forgotten Americans not to give up. Si se puede. Si se puede. Don't give up. And it seems to me that all of us can relate to that beautiful philosophy. I personally can relate to Cesar Chavez and the plight of the farm workers and the greatness of our country. I grew up in a family of migrant farm workers from South Texas, and I remember being pulled out of school early before the semester ended, and we would follow the crops to Minnesota, to Indiana, to Illinois. I dropped out of high school on several occasions, but by the grace of God, I returned back at the age of 21, I believe I received my high school diploma. And after that, my life has changed, thanks to all those people who believe in me, including my wife. A few years later, just to show you the greatness of our country and to show you that Cesar Chavez's positive attitude to our system or sense of fairness. A few years later, I was invited by the University of Illinois to participate in a graduation. My daughter, Annie, was nominated to receive her doctorate degree. And all those graduates who had parents who had a MD or a PhD were invited to bring their graduation garment and to participate in the march in the graduation. I was so happy to be there among the other faculty members. Can you imagine the tremendous feeling, emotion that I was going through this moment? Not only the fact that my daughter was getting a doctorate degree, but that I was also participating in this graduation. As we marched to the station, I sat there with the rest of the faculty, right in the middle. And I looked to my right and I looked to my left, and I said, what a wonderful world. What a wonderful dream. Here, to be sitting alongside, if only those people knew or know that I was a peasant, that was a farm worker picking corn in their own land, probably in the farms of their parents, you know. It was a wonderful feeling, you know. Here I was, equal among equals. I was so emotional, imbalanced, just thinking about that beautiful dream, that when they called my daughter to the stage and for me to take the hood and put it over her head, I was immobile. I couldn't get out of my seat, you know. I'm saying this, that we have to tell our children that sí se puede, that this is a wonderful world of opportunities in our country. And thank you again, Mr. President, honorable members of this council. This is history in the making for San Fernando. Gracias. Sí se puede.
Thank you. We have another special presentation this morning. I'd like to recognize Councilmember Greg Smith.
Thank you, Madam President. Over the years, there's been a couple famous parks in this building, not just Bernard Parks, but his father, who serviced the city council for many years, and a good friend of mine and a friend of people who have been around for a long time, George Parks, who has been around these chambers for many years and working with the city on many things. George Parks attended the Howard University School of Law from 1945 to 48, and that was a very critical time because that is where Brown versus the Board of Education lawsuit came from, and George was a part of the class that actually worked on that project and planned the project. He is very active in the community, trying to work to make Los Angeles a better place to live. He was a founder of the South Carthay Neighborhood Association, where he served as president. He was a founder of the Four Corners Neighborhood Association, also serving as president, and then also as the West Side Civic Federation, where he again served as president. Under the direction of George Parks, the first organized neighborhood watch was started in the Crenshaw area of Mr. Parks' district. He is a member of the legal department of the Los Angeles County Council's office and assigned to the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transit Authority. He was first of African American to teach real estate law at UCLA Extension Division. And on February 15th of this year, the New Frontier Democratic Club chose George Parks as the recipient of the Lifetime Trophy Award. George has been here for a long time working with us, and he's also served as well as a member of the city's commissions, primarily working Productivity Commission, where we look for leadership and guidance on getting and delivering city services in an efficient and economical way. And so George has just been a good friend. I wanted to bring him today to thank him for all those decades of service to Los Angeles, but more importantly, on congratulating him on his Lifetime Achievement Award with the Democratic Party. And I think it's awful interesting that you have a Republican council member here presenting you that, but it goes to the friendship I have with you for a very long time, and my appreciation for your dedication to this city and service to the communities in which you live. George, thank you for your service, and congratulations on your award.
Thank
Can
you
say a
very
few
much.
words?
Thank you very much.
Ms. Hahn?
I thank you so much, Greg, for this presentation, and I'm glad to see Janet Hahn there. I was Deputy Supervisor Kenneth Hahn for many years, and the Hahn name rings a bell with me. Yes, this is a place where I served as member of the Productivity Commission for many years, and this is an institution that I do admire. And I worked with Greg when he was Councilman Hal Bernson's deputy during those period of time. So I say to you, members of the City Council, keep up the good works, and I thank you for this recognition on this occasion. Thank you.
Ms. Hahn?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I just rise to say, first of all, thanks to my colleague, Greg Smith, for bringing this honor here in the City Council chambers to George. George, as you said, you've been, as long as I can remember, a true public servant in anything that you've been involved in, any assignment that you received. You treated it like public service, and you treated it with reverence, and the lives that you've improved, the issues that you've taken on over the years, you have clearly made a difference in all that you've touched, and particularly in the way you treat people. I have always noticed, no matter who we are or no matter who you talk to, you treat everyone with respect and dignity, and that probably means more to people than anything. So thanks, George, for having that great spirit, that great heart, and that great love for the people of Los Angeles.
Well, I thank you very much, and I enjoyed the many years that I worked with your father. The King Drew Hospital came out of your father's brains, and that history will come out. I was on his committee when he decided to acquire that land and start that hospital. So I thank you so very much.
Mr. Ludlow?
Thank you, Mr. President. George, it's great to see you here, and I wanted to say that only you could have found a way to be acknowledged for the Democrat of the Year by one of the only two Republicans on the City Council. Republican. It's a real honor to see you here. I've enjoyed working with you over the years. We've spent many, many hours together talking about issues all the way back to the Human Relations Commission and work with seniors. And just, it's great to see you here. Congratulations on the award. It's well deserved. And again, thank you to our colleague Greg Smith for taking the time to acknowledge your leadership. You've been a real treasure to the city of LA.
Thank you
Congratulations.
very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Picture in the back.
Oh, yeah, what? Sure. Come on.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And while they're taking a picture, Madam Clerk, first order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Reyes moves, Mr. Villaraigosa seconds,
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Ludlow moves, and Mr. Labange seconds.
Mr. President, this is a time for comments from the public on items not on council's agenda.
And I do not have requests from members of the public to be heard on non-agenda items. General public comment period for today is closed. Next item, please.
On the regular agenda, item number 1 is an item notice for public hearing, and there's a request to continue that matter to April 7th, 2004.
Okay, members request to continue item number 1 to April 7th without objection. So ordered. Next item, please.
And there's a request also to continue item number 2 to June 30th, 2004.
Request to continue item number 2 to June 30th, also without objection. Next item.
Item number 3, there's a request to hold that matter for Councilmember Weiss.
Yeah, we do expect him to arrive today. Let's hold item 3 on the desk. Next item, please.
Next items are items 4 through 22. Those are items for which public hearings have been held.
Members, 4 through 22 now before us. Public hearings have been held on these items. A motion from the floor would be required to reopen the public hearings. And seeing no such motion, do we have requests for specials? Mr. Smith.
20.
20, call special by Mr. Smith. Mr. Reyes.
Item 15, please.
15, call special by Mr. Reyes. Mr. Ludlow.
You're not on it yet.
Okay. Any other requests for specials? 15 call special, 20 call special. There's no further requests on the balance of items 4 through 22. Madam Clerk, please open
Mr.
the roll.
President, 25 special.
Let's open the roll on the matters before us, Madam Clerk. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Those items are approved. Next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held, items 23 through 40.
23
10 votes
through
are
40
required.
now before us, and I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on these items. Public hearings are open. Public hearings are closed. Ms. Misikowski calls item 25 special. Any other specials? Mr. Ludlow?
23.
23 call special by Mr. Ludlow. Any other specials? Any other specials? Seeing none, on the balance of the items, Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Those are approved. Next item, please.
The next items 41 through 45, are closed sessions. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Let's hold all closed session matters on the desk.
On the continuation agenda, item number 46 is an item for which public hearing has been held.
And we do have a speaker card in this item. Public hearing has been held. But colleagues, I think this is an urgent item that was continued from yesterday. Unless there's an objection, what I'd like to do is take this matter out of order. And let's begin with item 46. We do have one speaker card. Public hearing was held yesterday, but I think it would be helpful to hear from Miguel Contreras. Please come forward. And the first council member to be recognized will be Mr. Reyes. Members, your attention, please.
It goes for all the members whose name starts with the letter V. Good morning, council members. My name is Miguel Contreras. I'm the LA County Federation of Labor AFL-CIO Executive Secretary Treasurer, and I want to talk on this issue after discussion with Brian Darcy, who is the business manager of IBEW 18, whose contracts have the jurisdiction at the DWP operation. You know, and in terms of the idea behind honoring Cesar Chavez holiday, I did want to commend those who spoke up yesterday in terms of pushing forward this idea. You know, no one knows more importance about this holiday than we do. You know, I personally have served on the Cesar Chavez Holiday Committee here in the state of California, on the Postal Stamp Committee to get that postal stamp done here. So we understand about honoring such a man and legacy of Cesar. I had the pleasure of knowing Cesar for many years. I started off with his union, the United Farm Workers Union, joined in 1969, and worked for Cesar for 10 years. And so I do want to say that it is in our long-term and short-term goal is to make sure many workers have this day to appreciate the legacy of Cesar Chavez. But at this time, you know, we don't want to move forward with the recommendation of the DWP and the City Attorney's Office that we let the process work. The union, the IBEW 18, is committed without question to ensure that the DWP workers get that Cesar Chavez holiday, but we think the proper area is at the bargaining table for this area. We also don't think we should sacrifice one holiday for another. We think the name that Chavez stands by itself and should be rewarded as a holiday on its own. So our pledge to you is to work that out at the bargaining table and to make sure it happens so that this time next year, there's no question, but the entire city of Los Angeles should be honoring the legacy of our great leader, Cesar Chavez. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and if you can just stand nearby in case there's any questions. First council member to be recognized is Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. First, I just want to thank Mr. Contreras and the union leadership for that clarification. I think it's very, very clear that these are very complicated negotiations. Just trying to negotiate on the floor on this kind of issue would be inappropriate. It would not be constructive. But to hear the words of Mr. Contreras to speak to the honor of Cesar Chavez means a lot, not only to the communities of Los Angeles, but to all workers who understand that having a symbol, having a hero like Cesar Chavez means so much, especially for our young people, in a time in which the state spends more money on state prisons and jails and the heavy hammers opposed to education, as opposed to the kind of programs that speak to their development of their self-esteem. Having Cesar Chavez there is a crucial position to take. So I just want to thank Mr. Contreras and the unions for ensuring that we will have that ability to honor the legacy of Cesar Chavez. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Mr. Cárdenas.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Contreras, for coming forward and speaking on behalf of IBEW. It's my understanding that Brian D'Arcy's out of town, right? He's taking care of business, I think in New Orleans or something like that. We wish him well. Hopefully he has a successful trip. But here we are at home, where here in the state of California, we have appropriately named a holiday, a state holiday in California after Cesar Chavez. Cesar Chavez was an American citizen. Cesar Chavez was a man who only achieved a formal education of the 8th grade. But like they say in Spanish, when you say somebody's maleducado, the translation in English would be that, oh, maybe my kid needs to learn a little math or a little English. No, in Spanish what that means is, maleducado means that you weren't raised properly at home. You weren't taught respect. You weren't taught how to respect yourself, etc. Cesar Chavez was in fact somebody who was raised properly, because he came to be a leader, he came to be a hero, he came to be someone who actually literally sacrificed his life for a cause. And I think those are the kinds of things that people should espouse before we even consider having them honored with a holiday. And Cesar Chavez has certainly achieved that, along with the likes of Mahatma Gandhi, with the likes of Dr. Martin Luther King. I think that Cesar Chavez has reached that level of attainment of personal growth and personal stature and personal responsibility and national and worldly responsibility that he exuded. The reason why we brought this up yesterday is we wanted to find out a little bit more today about why the Department of Water and Power employees aren't going to get the opportunity to have Cesar Chavez's holiday as an honor for them to recognize. And as was said yesterday by Councilman Reyes, it's very important that our children, for example, are allowed and encouraged to contemplate who Cesar Chavez was, what he represented. Because I think when you look at that, there's probably not one American who wouldn't say, when you look at the tenets of Cesar Chavez and what he represented, that's what we want our children to be. We want them to be nonviolent. We want them to be upstanding citizens. We want them to speak out on issues that are important. We want them to stand up for those who do not have a voice. And Cesar Chavez represented all of that. Unfortunately, right now, it seems as though the Department of Water and Power, in negotiations with their union, in their union negotiations with their employees, has chosen not to leave that on the table as a holiday. Hopefully we will have an opportunity to see those negotiations move further. It's my understanding, Miguel, that the negotiations with IBEW overall are still not done. This is just one component of that. So hopefully there will be opportunity for the Department of Water and Power and the union to work this out and actually recognize Cesar Chavez holiday as a holiday. The rest of the city has done that. The state of California has done that, and I think it's only appropriate that we have that uniformity and that recognition so that the entire community of California can appreciate what this great man has done for all of us. Cesar Chavez fue un hombre honorable, un héroe, un líder, no nomás un líder latino, pero un líder americano, un líder para todo el mundo. Y él trabajó y luchó para los campesinos, para dignidad, para que ellos fueran reconocidos por todo lo que han hecho y lo que hacen diario para todos nosotros. No podemos vivir sin el trabajo de ellos, no podemos comer sin todo lo que ellos lograron para todos nosotros. Y para mí, Cesar Chavez es un héroe y alguien que merece que nosotros vamos a reconocer ese día de fiesta en nombre de Cesar Chavez.
Mr. Ludlow.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I want to first say thank you to Council Members Reyes and Cardenas for yesterday trying to slow this down a little bit and make sure that what we were about to do isn't what it looked like we were about to do. But with that, you know, I don't want to take the time. I don't want to take the time to bring DWP up, but I will take the time to say how disappointed I am that this confusion has been created here today. Over the last 24 hours, and I know that Councilmember Hahn is going to speak here in a moment, you know, there was an impression left that this was an urgent item, that we needed to get this in on time, that we needed to get this in because the holiday was Monday, that there was a crisis, that in order for the workers to be able to address this issue, we needed to bring it into this council immediately and adopt a motion. The reality couldn't be farther from the truth. The reality is that both labor and what we've been told, management, are still at the table. You're still in the process of negotiating an agreement. And to take one item out of there and rush it into council, to me, at best was a sort of a hurtful thing to do, because it caused a lot of people to react as if there was an effort to, as Miguel Contreras mentioned here this morning, sort of pit one holiday against another. We've all seen what that did a year ago. It was very ugly. It was very divisive. Colleagues, it's my impression that the negotiating process is well underway, that there is a very good dynamic happening at the table, that there are a number of items that are still being discussed, and that this motion, and again, I appreciate the spirit of the motion, because I think the author of the motion was given the impression by the department that this had to be done immediately. The reality is it doesn't. And the reality is that we ought to continue to honor the very sacred process that we have and the very good process that we have, where the bargaining unit and management are negotiating. What the commission authorized, colleagues, was not this motion, and it wasn't even one action. What they authorized was a very pro forma motion to give the management of DWP authority to enter into an agreement with the bargaining agent, with the bargaining unit. That's it. No more, no less. And what we rushed to deal with yesterday, in my opinion, was just inaccurate information given to the council by the department. Colleagues, with the Secretary-Treasurer of the AFL-CIO here today, with having spoken with Brian Darcy, with having just spoken with the representative of DWP, and also the author of the motion and the seconder of the motion, colleagues, I didn't mention my name, I just said the author. I would graciously suggest that we drop this motion and direct the department and the bargaining unit to go back and continue to work this issue out as they were doing. And I think, as Mr. Cardenas is saying and Mr. Reyes is saying, let's not mess with history. Let's find a way to do this with dignity and respect. Thank you.
Mr. Villaraigosa.
Well, I'm very heartened by the comments I've heard today, and I want to thank Miguel Contreras for clarifying and providing a little elucidation over this issue, and rightfully so. This is a very emotional issue for many of us, because I can tell you, when Miguel Contreras stands up and says he knew Cesar Chavez, he's not talking about knowing him in a casual way. He worked for him. He believed in him. He moved to Toronto and across the country to New York for the boycott. Many of us first cut our teeth, if you will, in the civil rights movement in support of the farm worker boycott. And the idea that this city would not respect that, I think, put a chill down all of our spines. Having said that, I'm very concerned about the department's failure to negotiate this issue. This is a matter that should be negotiated with the union. If we believe, as we do, and as I know Brian D'Arcy, and let me just say for a moment something about Brian D'Arcy. I've known him for nearly 20 years. Brian D'Arcy marched with Cesar Chavez. Everyone, Brian D'Arcy has had a commitment to him and his memory, and most important, to living out that legacy, and his union is prepared to negotiate with the DWP this matter. That's where this matter should be. We encourage the department to negotiate in good faith and to quickly resolve this and the other issues so we can move on to the very important issues at hand. I thank you, Mr. Contreras, and all of you for agreeing that it's time to move on.
Thank you, Mr. Villaraigosa. Other members wishing to be heard on this item? Ms. Hahn.
Since I keep being mentioned, not by name. Colleagues, you know, at the end of the day, I think what we had here was a good debate, and what we had was a good discussion on what it means really to have a holiday in the city and what it means to have holidays named after people who deserve to be honored and deserve to be talked about in our schools and on our streets, and the legacy of their lives to be discussed. And you know, I appreciate the work that was done at the state level by one of our colleagues to help make sure that this became, two of our colleagues, I'm sorry. You weren't here yesterday, so he took all the credit. Just kidding. To make sure that became a state holiday. But let me just remind you what this was, and it is confusing, and it's part of our city charter that is sometimes confusing. But what this was, we used to call it in the old days a friendly Prop 5, and what that meant was we had an opportunity to approve what a commission did early, so that it didn't go out the full 5 days, and we were able to approve what the commission did, which was to agree to enter into negotiations with this particular union. And all we were doing was asserting our jurisdiction, approving what the commission did, which was pretty much what we talked about today, to enter into those negotiations and leave it up to the unions to decide what they wanted to negotiate on behalf of their members. So what I think we can do today is one of two things. We can either receive and file this, or what we could do is just not insert our jurisdiction. We could have the first part of the motion, we can have that before us. Do we want to assert our jurisdiction over what the commission did? And we can say no, and then that's the end of it, and what the commission did stands. And I think that's pretty much what we all want to do here today. But I think that the opportunity we had to spend 2 days talking about Cesar Chavez was not in vain, and I hope those that watch Channel 35, particularly if young people watch it, they will have heard us talking about a great man, a great legacy, and the reason in the first place that we have holidays to honor people. So I think that's what we should do. We should have this jurisdiction before us and just vote no.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with you, Janice. The reason I wanted to speak on this is I seconded the motion on this matter, and it was interesting that it was brought up yesterday. Councilmember Smith brought to my attention. I discussed with Councilmember Reyes, and then the firestorm erupted after that. And I think what this clearly demonstrates is this council is very sensitive to issues that affect people. And if we learned anything from this, we've learned that communication is important, and the sensitivity of this council when it comes to recognizing significant leaders, people who have contributed to culture, to diversity, to improving people's lives. And Cesar Chavez contributed to people's lives, made great strides to help people. So we've learned a lesson from this experience. We've learned a lesson from this dialogue. And I agree with Janice what you're recommending on this particular motion, but I wanted to speak since I did second it. I did have conversation with DWP representatives yesterday, and clearly we're very sensitive to these issues, and that clearly is reflected in the comments and the discussion, the dialogue. And I'm sure that Brian D'Arcy, who's been a union representative for many years, is sensitive to people's issues, and this will be worked out at the table where the appropriate forum. And I appreciate Miguel Contreras coming before us this morning and recognizing that. But we are sensitive to people, we're sensitive to issues, so we have learned a lesson from this particular motion that came forward. So Janice, whatever that motion was, I guess receive and file, or take a vote on it, Mr. President.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that's the motion.
That's the motion. Take a vote and then vote no, correct?
We can do whatever you want, Ms. Hahn. We can vote on whatever you want.
You're the maker of the motion.
Why don't it seems like it's, City Attorney, do you have any comments on whether or not we receive and file this?
The council should first vote as to whether to assert jurisdiction or not.
Okay, then I think we should vote no, and that will be the end of it.
Okay.
If
Or another
Well, I
option
doubt
would
it
be,
will be the end of it, but
assert-
for today.
If jurisdiction is not asserted today, it will carry over till Friday, since Friday is the last day.
or we can receive and file.
Not asserting jurisdiction, that is a definitive answer. I mean, someone could reconsider it on Friday, but I think a no vote is that we do not want to take it up.
Before we get to the procedural point here, let's hear from Mr. Labange.
I just wanted to talk and rise for holidays, but this one in particular, wait, now stop. This one in particular talks about a day of service, which many people organize around this. And the life of Cesar Chavez and many public employees who do get an office, a day off, talk about a day of service and talk about a day of doing something special in communities throughout Los Angeles. So I don't want people to be confused about a situation that really is a labor issue that will be resolved properly by Local 18, et cetera, et cetera. But I want people to remember Cesar Chavez and his struggles and the people who still to this day bring us food to our tables, because I just came back from the Central Valley and I just saw what so many people do in that struggle as farm workers, and I wanted to make that point about history. And also talk about public employees who do days of service, and I know many of the leaders around this horseshoe organize particular activities that day, and I wanted to stand for that. I thank you very much, and God bless the memory of Cesar Chavez. Thank you.
Mr. Cardenas.
Yes, is Mr. Fujioka in the house? We're not going to ask you about the budget, so please sit down. No, sit down, please. Thank you very much. A little bit of history, please. The rest of the city of Los Angeles employees recognize Cesar Chavez holiday, but obviously several years ago it wasn't a recognized holiday. How did we transition into having the rest of the city of Los Angeles member family of workers recognizing Cesar Chavez holiday? How did that work out?
Well, it's a negotiated benefit, but it was at the recommendation of this city council in light of the, or consistent with the decision at the state level to recognize Cesar Chavez and to provide a holiday for the state employees.
So the city employees were able to work it out in their negotiations, and shortly thereafter it became a holiday for them?
Yes.
Okay. And in what manner did they do that? I mean, did they add a holiday, they took a floating holiday, what happened?
They basically gave up a partial holiday the day before Christmas in exchange for this particular holiday. At one point, prior to your arrival here in Conso, we had suggested giving up another paid holiday, and that caused some consternation from another community. I won't go there, but it did cause some concern.
Just a little history.
And so what we did do is go back to the table at the direction of this council and look at other options. And as a consequence, our labor groups, the majority agreed to give up the half day prior to Christmas in exchange for this holiday. Then subsequent to that, we had further discussions with the largest union representing our civilian employees, and agreement was reached, and that was with the EAA. So it came in different groups.
Okay, thank you very much, which also reiterates the point that this is something that should be done at the bargaining table, and something that hopefully IBEW will be successful with the Department of Water and Power in recognizing this very important day. It's something that certainly I think that when people actually stop to think about what this particular holiday means, what this particular individual, this human being meant to this country, I think that there's, without question, especially when you look at having labor organizations negotiating holidays, this is, once again, I'll say it again, this is the only labor leader in the entire country to ever have a holiday in his honor. And I think it's very important that we not diminish that in this state, certainly not in this city. So thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you for that further clarification. Any other members wishing to be heard on this item? If not, then I think we're still seeking some clarity here on the motions. The options are, if we're trying to put this to bed today, assert jurisdiction, receive and file, vote no on asserting jurisdiction, or we could just receive and file the whole matter.
I thought the city attorney told us we had to vote on asserting jurisdiction.
If council receives and files, then the matter would become final on Friday on its own merits.
How would we do that if I withdraw my, as the maker of the motion? Okay, how about I withdraw?
Somebody needs to make a motion to receive and file the entire matter.
I move to receive and file the entire matter.
Do we have a second? Mr. Zine seconds. We ready to vote? Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That matter is received and filed, and thank you for the history lesson. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, Councilmember Ludlow had called item number 23 special, and he has informed the clerk that his questions have been answered, so that can be voted on at this time.
Okay. If there's no further discussion on that item, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith, please. And Mr. Smith for an introduction.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce a group that's joining us today, a special group. We have teacher Bob Harrigan and Miss Valerie Johnson from the Kirk Douglas High School in Northridge. They're in the back. Please stand up, say hello. They came down today for a tour of City Hall and Olvera Street over in the, and also they're going to go to see Union Station. Welcome to City Hall. And they came down today on the Red Line. They didn't use buses. They came down on the Red Line. We hope you enjoy your stay at City Hall. Thank you very much.
They didn't see Tom LaBonge in the red line this morning, did they? Welcome to City Hall. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, I believe item number 3 is still being held on the desk, so that would take council to item number 15, which was called special by Councilmember Reyes.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, I call this special because we have an application that's moving forward for $1 million in state funding. And do we have staff from the department here? I'd like to call them to the table. Just hold my time, please. Just
Michael
introduce yourself,
Crossley
please.
from the Bureau of Sanitation.
Sir, your name again?
Michael Crossley from the Recycling Division within Sanitation.
Thank you.
Jorge Santiesteban, Citywide Recycling Division, Bureau of Sanitation.
Great.
Commissioner Cynthia Reese.
Welcome, Commissioner Reese and staff. The reason why I asked you to come to this table is I have some concerns of how we're looking at these funds. And one of the questions I have is there any indication of, I'll give you a couple of questions to start with. Is there any indication as to how these monies are being viewed and how they're going to be used in the city and where they're going to be spent? Do you have any observations on that?
The way that it's currently allocated for the upcoming year, there's about, out of the $1 million, roughly $1 million, a little over 300,000 is going to be allocated to other city departments to continue their existing programs, street services, the zoo, environmental affairs, convention center, some of the larger departments where there's a large gathering of people where we can implement recycling programs are continuing to get funding for that purpose.
One of the concerns I have is that, and I speak to this quite often, and it's because it has an impact on how we look at our quality of life issues. But it just seems to me that we need to, and I'd like to get a report back on this, we need to start looking at how high-dense areas in the eastern part of the city, central, south, and central part, where you have enclaves of people, over 30,000 per square mile in many of these areas, how we're looking at our littering programs. How do we get folks informed as to the impact of the littering, vehicles in which we can use, and how that's distributed? And my sense is that we have traditional ways of looking at our funding programs, and I'm not sure if we're assessing the impact of these neighborhoods who have high traffic, high volume, and yet we remain with formulas that have cyclical patterns that essentially does not reflect the impact of this high use. And I'd like to get a report back on how we can make that realization translate into policies. Essentially, bottom line is how this litter, how do we catch it from getting into our riverways and the ocean? And are we being strategic in where we're capturing the areas that have the strongest impact in our contamination and littering problems? So those are the concerns that I have, and I'm not sure if it's what we're going to be doing, and it's the kind of report I'd like to see come back to us so that we have an understanding of what your thinking is like and what are the cause and effects, and looking at the impact of these kinds of conditions on the littering programs.
Well, the motion before us today is to just request the funds.
Right.
And so we'd like to move forward with the motion. However, we'd be more than happy. I can have staff meet with you and we can sit down and do a strategy in terms of the actual spending of the funds. But today, we're just asking to have permission to request the money, the grant.
And I'm very cognizant of that. I realize what's happening with the motion. I understand its purpose, but I also want to be opportunistic in presenting these concerns and issues as it affects the highly populated areas, because that's where you can get your highest levels of pollution and littering. So with that in mind, I'm going to report back from you. Can you give me a date in which I can report back on the impact of this proposal and how it's going to be used?
Certainly, Councilman, we can report back to you in 2 weeks. But I want to also emphasize what Commissioner Ruiz has said. We have a time limitation in order to obtain these funds from the state. And we would like to have the money at hand first, and then we can bring the issue of how to use this money. But having the money first, would be prudent to proceed with authority to receive the money and then follow up with the ways to use the money.
I commit to you, I'm not going to be an obstructionist on this application to get this money. That's not my point. My commitment really is to see how we're assessing and evaluating being the most effective and strategic in cleaning up our litter and educating, informing, and doing the preventive measures that can, in the long run, benefit the whole city. Thank you.
Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes, for raising these issues. These are similar to the issues that I raised in committee. And based on your comments today, why don't we make a motion to have the department representatives come back to committee and then on to council to present to us your strategy for outreach and implementation in those areas, for example, 8, 9, 10, 1, and 14 and 15, where we have an enormous problem with just getting basic information to constituents so they can actually take part and avail themselves of these opportunities. I too am concerned about receiving grant funds that go for operating costs and yet don't translate to any real benefit to the constituents and to those who we purport to serve. So if I could get a second from you, Mr. Reyes, I would appreciate that, and that would be my verbal motion, and then have you come back in the next EQ committee, and if you would break it out by council district, give us a spreadsheet by council district for your last year's activities. Thank you.
For past year or upcoming?
Well, if you can do both so we can take a look at what happened and what you are projecting will happen, all right? We had that sort of spreadsheet this morning in Public Works on removal of illegal signs, and it was most illuminating. So where the activity is taking place and where the resources are being allocated.
We'll be very happy to go to EQ at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Other members wishing to be heard? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
That is approved. And Mr. Weiss has joined us. We can, I believe, return to item number 3 at this time.
Yes, item number 3 was called special for Councilmember Weiss.
Okay, we do have 2 speaker cards in item number 3. Ed Gala and Mariela Martinez, would you please come forward at this time? Okay, Mr. Gala, Ms. Martinez, are you still here on item number 3? Here's your opportunity to be heard.
Good morning, members of the City Council. My name is Mariela Martinez, and I'm an attorney for Nextel, which is the project proponent in this case. What I want to mention is brief, and then if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them or defer to Mr. Gala, who's another representative of Nextel. I just want to make clear that Nextel has gone through all the legally required notice and comment procedures to involving the public process in this case, and that we have considered possible co-locations. None of those have been acceptable. We have gone as far as to amend our project based on public input and the input of the zoning administrator. And what we have here is really a best case scenario where there are absolutely no visual effects from this wireless telecommunications antenna, no visual effects whatsoever, and therefore no impact on property values. So I urge the City Council to approve the zoning administrator's recommendation and issue the permits necessary for the building and maintenance and operation of this tower.
Thank you. Mr. Gala?
Good morning. Ed Gala with Nextel Communications. I'm just here to answer questions if you have any technical questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. This concludes public comment on this item. Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, colleagues. We had a discussion about this in Plum, and Mr. Reyes and I are going to hopefully in the future move forward in terms of dealing with some of the other public policy issues that were raised by this. It's a matter in my district. I feel strongly about it in my district. And you've received advice from the city attorney's office with respect to the overall handling of this matter and the other case. As the representative of this area, I'm opposed to what Nextel is proposing to do there. And that's fine. No, that's fine. And I just want the representatives from Nextel, so I really just want to look towards the future and just tell you in this chamber, yet again, as I told you in Plum, the community I represent was not impressed with the level of outreach you did and level of sensitivity you showed. You better do a better job next time, because next time we're going to have procedures in place to deal with your representations about the sort of technical specifications that you cited. I mean, I'll just throw one thing out at you, and this is something we're going to take a look at in the next round. You know, when you say you can't reach a lease agreement, terms on a lease agreement with someone to locate the cellular tower in a different place, to my view, that just means you're not willing to pay what someone else is asking. I mean, so that's basically telling me that you're cheap, and you want to burden my community because you're cheap. You better do a better job. And I want you, sir, I'm talking to you. I want you to listen to me. I want you to do a better job in my district next time, because I will be watching your next application very closely. Just want to emphasize this matter in my district. That's why I'm voting no.
Mr. Reyes.
Colleagues, as chair of Plum, we sometimes review projects and cases that are very controversial. In this case, each one of us has dealt with these towers. And the challenge we have is knowing that we are restricted by law not to deal with the health issues. That comes from the federal government, from the FCC. It is stated that we cannot make any kind of action that is based on health issues on these towers. Yet, our community members, our constituents are very concerned about the health impact, and rightly so. In this particular case, I was advised, the committee was advised, that we needed to move to deny the appeal and to sustain the zoning administrator's determination and its findings, because the inevitable would have happened that we would have lost the case, that we would have ended up paying all the city attorney fees, that the hit on our budget would continue over and over again, and that we were in a position to be fiduciary responsible to the limitations of our authority and our discretion in this matter. So I understand Councilmember Weiss's position. He's taken an opposition because he feels, and as you have heard, is concerned and essentially offended by the posture and the presence and the bravado of some of the representatives of Nextel, knowing that they have the upper hand legally. And that is frustrating. For many community members, it's frustrating knowing that our hands are tied. We have pushed to co-locate antennas. We have pushed to bring antennas so that they're not perceived through physical disguises on the facade of buildings. But yet the truth is there in that the community members are in fear of their health, for their health, because of the rays that emanate from these antennas. Whether it does or doesn't, the impression is, and the sense is that it does affect communities. So bottom line is, in this case, I need to maintain my posture as chair of Plum, maintain my posture as representative of the city, taking guidance from the city attorney, that we need to deny the appeal and sustain the zoning administrator's determination and findings so that the city does not get hit with more fees and city attorney fees in a case that we will lose. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Are there members wishing to be heard on this item?
Mr. President, this was submitted without recommendation, so a motion is required on this.
Mr. Reyes, was that a motion in there somewhere?
Yes, the motion would be to move to deny the appeal and to sustain the zoning administrator's determination and its findings detailed in case number ZA 2001-443-CU, and to approve Nextel Communications application for conditional use permit for the proposed construction, use, and maintenance of a wireless telecommunication facility with an existing enclosure on the roof of a 10-story office building at 1801 Century Park West.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Is there a second? Mr. Park seconds. Other members wishing to be heard? If not, let's open the roll. Roll is open on Mr. Reyes' motion. Let's close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes, 2 noes.
That motion is approved.
Okay.
Next item, please.
Mr. President.
Mr.
Can I make an
Labange.
introduction?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Members, with us this morning, and you know, we talk about interns and people who follow us at work, but the Eyewitness News team has brought an intern with us this morning to visit. Please welcome Madeline Kazakowski from Macedonia, who's here. Give him a big welcome. He's a journalist, learning, and he's with the Eyewitness News team, and we want to welcome him here and learn about how we operate our government in the City Council. I thank you and welcome to the City of Angels. And also, Mr. President, as we're doing introductions, please welcome the great University of Southern California Trojans Journalism Master's Program class. Stand up and be recognized, USC. They're down here today learning about the City Council as well. So we got a lot of great visitors all over. Thank you, Mr. President.
Next item, please.
Mr. President, there's a request to hold item number 20 on the desk, and the next item then would be item number 25, which was called special by Councilmember Miskowski.
Okay, well, let's take up item 25 next. I think for purposes of a recusal, Ms. Miskowski is leaving chambers. Let the roll reflect Ms. Miskowski is absent at this time. Any discussion on item 25? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please. Well, let's come back to item number 20 if Mr. Smith is ready. Okay. And we've been rejoined by Ms. Miskowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. On item number 20, we just ask that you delete condition number 4A on the engineer's report dated January 8th of 2004. This project in Ms. Perry's district, and she agrees with the technical change.
Any further discussion on this item? Then without objection, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Do you wish to clear the desk before going into closed session?
Let's do housekeeping.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Motion shall be posted and referred.
There's an excuse on the desk. Councilmember Smith requests to be excused Tuesday, March 20th to leave at 10:40, and that meets council policy.
Excuse granted.
And that clears the desk for closed session.
Mr. Weiss.
I would like to be recorded in the majority on item 46. It was a 14-0. Without me, I'd like to make it a 15-0 because
Okay, item 46.
Thank you.
Let's, for technical purposes, is that okay, Ms. Clerk? Madam Clerk?
Pardon me, Mr. President?
Can we add Mr. Weiss?
Yes.
On item 46? Doesn't change the outcome. And unless there's anything further, the council, in conformance with California law, will now adjourn into closed session. I'd ask, before the sergeants clear the chambers, I also want to announce that Mr. Parks is recused on items 41 and 42. He will not be part of closed session consideration of those items. And at this point in time, sergeants, will you please clear the chambers? Session. Madam Clerk, next item before us, please.
First item before council, item number 41, is that settlement in the case of Nagatoshi versus City of Los Angeles et al., and that's in the amount of $4 million.
Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes, 1 no.
That is approved. Forthwith, please. Next item.
Next item, item number 42, and that settlement in the case of Diana Davies versus City of Los Angeles, and that's in the amount of $280,000.
Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith, please. Next item.
Next item is item number 43, and that's settlement in the case of Francisco Martinez versus City of Los Angeles in the amount of $250,000.
Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith, please.
Next item is item number 44, in the case of Kelly Cooper versus City of Los Angeles, Stanley Ludwig and Thomas Murrell in the amount of $125,000 and various conditions of employment.
Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith. Next item.
Last one is item number 45, and that's in the case of Elva Palacios versus City of Los Angeles in the amount of $125,000.
Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved as well. Forthwith.
And that clears the desk, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, colleagues. This is the end of our agenda today. Do we have any announcements? Announcements? Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of announcements. First of all, the Mid-City Chamber, along with the Korean American Chamber and the Crenshaw Chamber, are putting on a free small business tax seminar on Friday, March 26, at the SGI Center at 5899 Venice Boulevard between 8:30 and 12. Phone number 213-239-8506 for any information on that seminar. And then in the 8th District, we have 2 school meetings looking for community input regarding locations for schools. On Monday, April the 5th at 6 p.m., LA Unified School District will be holding a South Regional High School number 5 meeting at Dorsey High School located 3537 Farmdale. And then on Tuesday, April 6th at 6 p.m., LA Unified School District will hold a site selection meeting for the South Region Span K through 8 number 2 school, and that will be held at the Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School at 3989 South Hobart.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Other announcements?
Yes.
Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. I just want to make an announcement for those individuals who may be listening today. We're having a public safety forum in my district this evening. This is the second of a third. It will be at Studio City Rec Center at Beaman Park tonight at 6:30. For us, public safety is not just police and fire, but transportation, public works issues, and definitely sidewalks. And I hope that anyone who does live in that community would attend. Our last one will be in Sunland, Tahunga, which we have moved for Greg Smith because we have a meeting next week in the district. So if you were planning on coming to Sunland, Tahunga next week, we have postponed that meeting on the 31st. And so I just encourage everyone to attend this evening if they can. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other final announcements? Mr. Zine.
I just want to thank Councilmember Wendy Gruhl, Councilmember Cindy Musikowski, our controller, Laura Chick, Bill Boyarsky from the Ethics Commission, Bill Rosendahl, and the Tarzana property owners for hosting a town hall last night. That's going to be televised on Channel 36. And it was an hour and a half of dialogue, 2 hours? 2 hours regarding ethics in the city of Los Angeles. Very informative, so it'll be on the cable broadcast throughout Los Angeles, and it's the TPOA, Tarzana Property Owners Association, annual town hall meeting. A lot of debate. Steve Afriat was also there, a consultant or a lobbyist. Everything was discussed. It was an interesting town hall, and if you want to know anything about pay to play, watch it. You'll hear about pay to play and how bad pay to play really is. Thank you. That's a tease. That's good. So now people want to watch it. Thank you.
Mr. Villaraigosa. Announcements? No? Other announcements? If not, do we have adjourning motions today? Please rise for adjourning motions.
They were zingers.
If I can ask for order while we have adjourning tributes. Adjourning motions? Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to adjourn this meeting in the memory of Rosalia Romero Peña. She passed away on March 1st, 2004. Rosalia Romero Peña was born on April 9th, 1942, in Chihuahua, Mexico. At the age of 22, she married Pepe Peña in Our Lady Help of Christians Church in Lincoln Heights. She lived and worked in Lincoln Heights for the next 40 years. She worked a variety of invaluable positions at Albion Street School for over 30 years. Her last job included office assistant for the main office, where she helped numerous families and students. Besides focusing her efforts on the countless children of Lincoln Heights, she raised 3 healthy and successful sons. She enjoyed the last 10 years of her life with her 2 grandchildren. Rosie left a great deal of joy and happiness in her family's and numerous people's hearts. Our thoughts are with them. We are joined here today by Mr. Don Pepe Peña, son, and Guillermo Reyes, in honor of Rosalia. And I must share with you, colleagues, that Rosalia and Pepe Peña are one of those folks. They own a store, a panaderia, that offers a lot of services. And at the face of it, it looks just like a store. But in fact, the family always got together. Don Pepe Peña used to come in and helps out our communities, our Honor Walk Soccer League, many events in Mount Washington and our heritage functions. And they are one of the blocks, one of the cornerstones of our community. And it's with great heavy heart that we honor her today and the Peña family. And I just want to recognize them for their great contributions to our community.
Mr. Villaraigosa.
I'd like to second that. Members, it is with great sadness that I adjourn in memory of Cecilia Arvizu Sanchez, a longtime friend, nearly 25 years. I've known Cecilia. She was 47 years young. I first met her at the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. She was a civil servant there, fighting and enforcing our civil rights laws, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Before joining the EEOC, Cecilia was a community organizer with the United Neighborhood Organization fighting for civil rights on the east side, against redlining, for empowerment in our community, against drugs and liquor stores and the proliferation of those entities in our community. She worked in a nonprofit agency where she worked with mentally disabled children and adults, and she was like a mother figure to many disabled children. She was active in her church, was a ballet folklorico instructor to underprivileged and homeless children at the Placita Olvera. She is survived by 3 children: Luis, age 17, Andrea, age 15, and Leti, age 13, and survived by her husband, Raul Sanchez. We'd like to adjourn in her memory.
Other tributes? Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.
You are watching LA City View, Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
We now join our scheduled program in progress.